I cannot figure out what Gamebred's tactics or strategy was supposed to be going into this match. I can tell you definitely he did not know what to expect when he fought Covington, which is bizarre because I believe he's fought him before, so I don't know what he's thinking, but his tactic of swinging hard periodically for the first couple rounds and then letting up because he's starting to get gassed is just, it doesn't work. He's lost so many matches lately because he's not changing his strategy to match the fighter he's fighting, especially when it comes to wrestlers. When he fights wrestlers, he tends to try to stay on his feet as much as possible, but he doesn't really seem like he's worked that hard on preventing the takedowns. He gets taken down really, really easy, and it's usually when he's striking or kicking or advancing in some way, he gets taken down rather than him being on his heels, which means to me that he's overcompensating and he's trying to be aggressive when he shouldn't be aggressive. There's a time to be aggressive, especially when you're Masvidal, when you're game bred, and then there's a time for you to sit back and be cautious and wait for him to try to take him down. I mean, when people are shooting on him, he really should be uppercutting, he should be kneeing. A good knee right when someone's trying to take you down does a lot. I mean, he has the fastest, or did have at one point, the fastest knockout in UFC history. And it was because he kneed somebody. Ran right up to and kneed him when he was going to be taken down, when the guy was going to try to dive and take him down. So when he sees people starting to try to take him down continuously, maybe he should wait and bait them and then do an uppercut or a knee or something. But he's literally letting himself get to the point where he is getting pushed up against the cage and he's just too short. He's not long enough to get his body wide enough and lower the center of gravity to the point where he can prevent being taken down when he's up against the cage. And at least when he's up against the cage, he can get back up to a certain extent. He gets better with it with time. When he's sitting up against the cage, he can work his way up. But when he's in the middle of the mat, in the middle of the ring, he really struggles to get up, and then that's killing him. That's really killing him. I think he needs to refocus himself on trying to prevent being taken down in the first place. It's not working for him. That strategy has been hurting him for the last 3 to 4 matches. I mean, if you look at his last match, or the match against Nog, or the match against I'm trying to think of who else he fought recently, and I'm blanking, but he's lost against wrestlers, and I don't know why they keep matching him up against wrestlers, other than the fact that these wrestlers are really, really good, to be honest with you, at wrestling. They're really good at winning matches. You look at someone like Usman, when he beat, that's another guy I was thinking of, when he beat Masvidal, but the first match he kind of like pushed him up against the wall again, kind of controlled him, took him down, kept him down, didn't really inflict a lot of damage, but he at least on the second match went after him, knocked him out. I mean, I gained a lot more respect for Usman in the second match than during the first. During the first, I just saw that typical wrestler getting points kind of match from him, where he just kind of took him down, stepped on his foot, kneed him in the leg, didn't really cause any damage, but was getting points and controlling the match because he's stronger than Masvidal. Masvidal is more of like what's a good analogy for a dog for him? He's maybe a bulldog, and maybe kind of short, stout, not overweight. By what I mean by stout is he's a lot of energy in a compact frame, and he's pretty buff, but he's not overly huge. But the people who are beating him are longer legs, longer arms, taller. They seem to be able to do what he would normally need to do by preventing takedowns, keeping your body low, keeping your legs spread out wide, and I don't think he's doing a very good job at that at all. So he's got a lot of opportunities to do a lot more training, to try to learn how to fight wrestlers, and how to fight people who are good jiu-jitsu fighters. He doesn't get choked out. We saw the entire match where he was kind of getting his neck cranked, but he didn't get choked out. Very rarely did the arm go underneath the chin to the point where he couldn't breathe. So I think that was good, but and that's also probably because his opponent's a little bit taller than he is. With opponents that are on the same height, realm in the, excuse me, in the same area in terms of height. They do a little bit better job of being able to get the leverage that they need underneath the chin to choke someone out. But when you're taller than the other person and your elbow goes more like on the chin, you can crank, but you can't really choke very effectively. At least that's what I've seen with these fights lately. So knowing that, then once again, when he's on the ground, same thing. He's got to change his tactics. He's got to adjust, and I haven't seen him do that much in these last 4 to 5 fights, and I think that's why he's losing predominantly to wrestlers. Boxers, I think he can do really good against kickboxers, guys who like to stand and bang, Gaethje, that kind of style. But there's a lot more wrestlers and jiu-jitsu fighters now than there ever was before, and I think that's creating an enormous amount of a competition for him that he didn't expect, and he didn't adjust his game to match the difference in competition that he's never really experienced before. So I think that's a big part of his game that he's going to have to focus on in order to come back and win, because at some point people are going to get tired of seeing him lose. He's going to get tired of losing, and maybe that will cause him to light a fire under his ass and start learning how to prevent takedowns, figuring out how his frame and his structure in those kinds of fights, he can focus on not getting taken down in the first place. Because when he gets taken down and it's against a larger, longer opponent, he just sits there for the most part, especially late in fights like we saw tonight, where he's on the ground, he's exhausted, he kind of tries to get out a couple times, but it was more like too little too late. It happened towards the end of each round. There was like 10 seconds left. He was finally on his feet, and at that point, like I said, he's gassed. He seems to get gassed really easy towards the latter portion of these 5-round fights. The major card, the big matches where you have 5 rounds, I think that really hurts him. I think his stamina is just not where it should be. His cardio is not where it should be in order to take some of these matches into the 5th round. So I think he's really built to end matches in the first 2-3 rounds or so. Once he gets past that point, it really becomes hard for him to win. So if I was a betting man, if it's going to go after 3 rounds, 4 rounds, I would take whoever's fighting against Masvidal, because to be honest, he just doesn't have the stamina to be able to take care of business at that point, that late in the game. So anyways, I'm hoping that he's going to improve. Hope to see him back. Probably going to be another 6 months before we see anything. But I think he needs to take an easier opponent, a stand-up guy, somebody who's going to stand up and bang with him. I think he'll have a better likelihood that he's going to win. So I hope he does that. Dana, I hope you make the decision to put him in that position, because he needs to rebuild his confidence. It's pretty banged up after this fight. Covington really gave it to him, and he just didn't have a chance to really put his hands on Covington because he spent most of his time on his back. So put it together, get it together, and get back to banging. Peace.